Welcome to the Riff and Chips podcast crossover mini-series. I'm your host, Phil Vernon, and today's guest is Jazmin Lamy, host of I'm Your Biggest Fan. Jazz started I'm Your Biggest Fan in January 2024 as a way to talk to your favourite bands about their favourite bands. She also worked with some of the biggest bands in the scene in her day job as a publicist for Cosa Nostra PR. Join us as we discuss the difficulties of getting to gigs when you live in the Channel Islands, who her favourite bands are, and the battered delight that is a Jersey wonder. Jazz, welcome to Riff and Chips.
Thank you for having me.
We always start our episodes with how our guests got into heavy music. So how did you initially get into the heavy side of things?
Well, it depends what your definition of heavy is. My first introduction to rock music, shall we say, was Bon Jovi.
Okay.
My
counts.
mum is like a super fan. It was like the heaviest thing she would listen to when I was growing up.
Yeah.
For the first bit of my life, my parents were separated.
Yeah.
So that was the heaviest thing I had come across. And then my parents got back together for a second time. And when my dad moved in, he brought in all his Iron Maiden stuff, all his Guns N' Roses stuff, all his AC/DC stuff.
Little step up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hooked. And I was very much dad rock all the way for years until lockdown 2020. And I had exes that had been into heavier stuff. My ex when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 was always trying to get me into Slipknot, but it was a little bit too much in my face.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready for that jump yet. And I very much took on my dad's opinions when I was younger. Yeah. So if my dad thought something was shit, I was like, oh yeah, he's right, it's shit.
Yeah. He was the oracle.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, my dad is an old school rocker. So anything screamy, shouty isn't going to be up his street.
Not interested.
Whether it's good or not. So it took me a very, 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 very long time to kind of gather my own opinions.
Yeah, forge your own path sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was lockdown 2020 when I was doing my own album reviews and my own interviews off my own back. Mm-hmm. And instead of reviewing albums I already knew I would love, I decided to review a brand new, fresh release of a band I knew would be heavier, didn't know if I would like them or not. Mm-hmm. And that was Lamb of God's self-titled album.
Okay, yeah.
And it was something about Randy Blythe's vocals was just the perfect balance of heavy and gravelly and screamy, but I could still understand what he was singing.
Yeah, there's that kind of difference, that kind of clarity that comes from something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
I totally understand. As someone who's all aspects, I love my dad rock, I love my 80s rock as well, but obviously love the very extreme end of things as well. And I totally get why people aren't into the screaming thing and how they can find it hard to get over it. When you sit and think about it, it is kind of weird that we do listen to it and enjoy it. Because if you heard that just in isolation in the street, you'd be like, what the fuck?
I've also figured out as well, when my ex was trying to get me into it the first time around, I don't think I was angry enough at life yet.
Yeah.
Lockdown hit. I'd been through so much shit by then. I think I was ready for the anger now.
Yeah. But it's nice to find, you found something to hang your hat on with it. And like I say, it's a good time to be exploring new stuff. A lot of things came out of that and changes for people. We came out of lockdown and through having nothing else to do. And, I think lots of podcasts started and people decided to try new things. It was a kind of rough time, but I think big time of change for a lot of people as well. So was there much of a local scene where you grew up? Obviously, you say you more started off in kind of 80s rock, but...
So I grew up on the tiny island of Jersey in the Channel Islands.
Okay.
So to answer your question in short, no. There
nothing.
Was no music scene, let alone a heavy music scene.
Yeah, okay.
Which is kind of what brought me to London eventually. Because growing up on so the island is 9 by 5 miles wide.
Right, okay. I didn't realize it was that small, yeah.
It's that small. So growing up, the only other metalhead I knew was my dad.
Yeah.
None of my friends, even to this day, are really into metal.
Yeah.
So no is the short answer to
there's
that.
no scene whatsoever. So it wasn't until you moved to London that you kind of got the opportunity to start going to shows and stuff?
Yeah, because again, with Jersey, like if you want to go to a concert, you have to get a flight over, got to pay for accommodation, got to pay for travel and transport within mainland UK, plus however much the concert tickets are. So if you're going to go to a concert from Jersey, it makes sense to like go big or go home.
Yeah.
Like it's not worth going to like a little pub gig.
Yeah,
from
coming
Jersey.
over to like a festival where you're getting like a weekend out of it, maybe it's worth a trip, isn't it?
Yeah,
like how
exactly.
people, travel to Europe for Grasspot, Whack and stuff like that. It's like, well, at least I'm getting kind of 4 days or so out of this. It's like a mini holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So it was the same. Like I remember my first concert was when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
And me, my mum, my dad went to might have been Twickenham or Milton Keynes Bowl.
Right, okay.
But it was to see Bon Jovi on their
of course.
Have a Nice Day tour.
Right, okay.
And I saw Bon Jovi twice more after that before they got really shit. and before Richie left, so that's good.
Yeah.
But then also after the first Bon Jovi concert was my first time seeing Iron Maiden at the O2 with my dad.
Okay, nice.
So those 4 concerts, Bon Jovi 3 times, Iron Maiden once, were the only gigs I'd been to before leaving Jersey.
Right, okay.
And then I studied music journalism at uni in Brighton.
Okay.
But I spent most of my weekends traveling from Brighton up to London for gigs.
Right, okay.
Because there's a great music scene in Brighton.
Yeah,
but it's
really
a
good,
little bit too indie for me. So I was like, yeah, London's where I need to be, especially if I want to like make a career out of being in the heavy music industry.
Yeah. And then ever since you moved to London, I assume shows are pretty regular. I mean, I just saw on your social media, you were doing double duties the other night, weren't you? And then were you at Opeth last night as well?
Yeah, Opeth last night. So I actually went to 3 concerts in one night last year.
Impressive.
I had 3 bands playing in London, thankfully all very close together. And all their set times meant that I had about 20 minutes to get between each one.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I managed to do 3 venues in one night.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could do that again now. It worked out perfectly. But
yeah.
I am at a lot of gigs all of the time.
I mean, why not?
I think if I didn't work in the music industry, then I would not be going to this many shows. I am in a very lucky, privileged position to have it be a part of my job.
Yeah. I mean, it's costly, isn't it? I mean, like you say, if you were buying tickets to all those shows, it does stack up and you do have to pick and choose. And especially with, the big arena shows now, I mean, anything less than 3 figures for a show like that nowadays is almost, and, even pick a random show at like a kind of mid-sized venue in London, an Islington Academy show or something like that, depending on who it is, that could be £25-30 plus now. And going back in my day, but like 2002, which I guess is quite a while ago now, I remember paying like £7 to watch Kill Switch 36 Crazy Fists. It's like a classic thing. It's probably gone up way above inflation sort of thing. And I appreciate a lot of tickets I remember my mate's dad when we were kids, he was hugely into like Sabbath and stuff, and he showed us some tickets of seeing Sabbath in the 80s for in the 70s or something for like £1.20 or something. And like,
it's mental.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, it's an expensive hobby. So I think, like you say, it's nice for you to be in the kind of position that you get to enjoy it without ripping your pockets to shreds.
Yeah, exactly. Just spend it all on band merch instead.
Yeah, but I mean, that's cool. I mean, they're making more money out of that than they probably are off the ticket sale. So
exactly. That was my thinking behind it too.
Coming onto the pod, you started Biggest Fan, kind of looking at your kind of history of episodes, January 24. Does that sound about right?
It was in the works for a lot longer than that, though.
As in what, just kind of like putting some feelers out, see who you can get on board, or just coming up with the concept?
Well, like about 2 years prior, I was supposed to start the podcast with my ex.
Okay.
And we did like a pilot episode and we filmed it, and it was supposed to be in person.
Right, okay.
So we filmed like the pilot episode with one of our friends, Jude Bennett from Beyond Extinction. Then we very quickly decided that doing it in person was really unreliable and just
a real effort,
not doable. And he had a lot of other stuff going on like in his personal life, so he couldn't, for example, like ensure that he had 7:30 on a Thursday free.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like left it by the wayside, and then we split. But it was still something I wanted to do because I originally had the concepts as a radio show in 2021.
Right, okay.
It just didn't really work as a radio show because the songs I was putting in were the songs of the band we were talking about.
Yeah.
And most of the time, that was already a really big band.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt a bit weird that I was interviewing these smaller bands who needed the radio airplay more than the bigger band that they were talking about.
Yeah.
So it didn't last very long, but I still loved the concept of it.
Yeah, okay.
So after I kind of like healed from that breakup, I was like, right, ready to get back into it, bring
Yeah,
it back
okay.
as a podcast. Oh, I spent like 4 months before we launched it, doing like 3 interviews a week.
Right, okay. Oh, so you had them like banked
They were
ready to go.
banked, yeah. I was like, and then I started feeling really bad because every time I would record an interview, they'd be like, oh, so when is it going out? And I'm like, 5 months from now? Is that okay?
Yeah. Was there a particular thing that kind of made you want to follow that particular format for a podcast? So let's just start with, actually, before we go into it, why don't you talk to the people that might not have heard your podcast, what the kind of format is and what the basis of the pod is?
So the name of the podcast is I'm Your Biggest Fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically interview artists about their favorite artists.
Yeah.
Very simple concept,
yeah.
but very effective. And
Simple's
the whole
good.
reason I wanted to do it is obviously I have a big girl job in the music industry. As much as I'm like a fan of music first, I also have to be professional.
Yeah.
But like the little fangirl in me, I never want to let go.
No.
Always a fan first, professional second.
It's important to keep that, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And I find as well, especially working full-time in PR and on this side of the bands, I feel like it's very easy for fans to forget that their favourite bands also have favourite bands.
Of course they do, yeah.
And that they started out fans just like them. And I also see like bands get asked the same questions every album cycle, every tour cycle. And I just thought it'd be like nice and fun to give musicians the opportunity to just revert back to being fans of music and just reminiscing on the bands that got them into music in the first place.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's great as well because you're already talking to them about something you know they want to talk about.
Yeah, it makes it much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I always get like a little kick out of the end of my conversations when everyone is so enthusiastic about the bands that they're talking about. And you can see that kind of like glimmer of childlike wonder that they must have had the first time they discovered those bands and like set them on this journey that they ended up coming on.
As this is a kind of crossover series, we thought it would be a good idea to kind of give listeners a taste of what they can maybe expect to hear on an episode of Biggest Fan. So we're going to turn the light onto you, Jazz, and ask you who you're the biggest fan of.
I have 2 favourite bands for 2 very different reasons.
Hit me up with both.
So the first one is Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Which I am drinking out of a mug of right now.
Can confirm.
I think because like I discovered that band kind of like by myself by accident, even though it was my dad's stuff I had found.
Yeah.
He never introduced them to me.
Right,
I just found them by accident. So they felt like the first band that were mine.
Yes.
And I think I was about 9 years old at the time. I was going through like my parents' DVDs one night when they were both out. Felt like watching something I probably shouldn't watch. On like the spine of this DVD, there was just like Guns and Blood dripping on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks like something a 9-year-old shouldn't watch.
Yeah. I'm going for it.
I put it on, but it was the Guns N' Roses Welcome to the Music videos.
Right, okay.
And the first music video was Welcome to the Jungle. And it was also the first time I'd heard that song.
Right, okay.
And I've always been a massive fan of music videos because like, I definitely feel like the visual aspect when you hear a song for the first time can have a much bigger impact than if you had just heard the song.
Yeah, I get that.
So like the opening notes of Welcome to the Jungle, and it was also the first time I'd ever seen like leather and back-combed hairsprayed hair and Axl Rose in tiny little leather trousers.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very, very pivotal moment for me, that band. So they're kind of like my overall umbrella band that literally changed my life.
Yeah. Have you had the chance to catch them live since? Or
I have, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen them 3 times now, I think.
Nice.
They're one of those bands that like, again, very privileged position. Like I wouldn't pay to go and see them now.
No.
But I've been able to see them 3 times.
I haven't seen them since the kind of, well, as classic as the classic lineup can be, you know, since the kind of reunion. I want to say it was Download, probably 2006, one of the earlier downloads. And to be fair to them, like, you know, they were bang on time that time, but then there was just periods where like Axl was seemed to be going off stage for about 20 minutes to have like oxygen or something, and the band would just kind of left a jam, and you close your eyes and it's Guns N' Roses because the vocal is there. The rest of it's just it's drums and guitar. It is what it is, and I enjoyed it. But then I've not seen them since.
Yeah.
But I think I'm the same as you. There's been plenty of opportunity to see that reunion lineup, but have I had any real drive to spend that money and go? Probably not, no.
So Axl, Duff, and Slash is the lineup. I never saw them like on the Chinese Democracy lineup. It's just those three that I've seen them on. So thankfully, I haven't had as bad an experience. But I remember being on holiday in Cyprus and watching the reunion, quote unquote reunion, live on social media as they were teasing it. Bear in mind, ever since I got into Guns N' Roses, they had just always been broken up.
Yeah.
So in my little teenage brain, I was like, I'm never going to see Guns N' Roses. It's never going to happen. And then to see, literally, they said it would never happen in this lifetime. And it was. I was just, I can still remember.
Didn't they just do a little show at the Whiskey or something like that, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Just a proper tiny little Whiskey A Go-Go show or something, and then like announced that they were back sort of thing. What about the second band?
Second band, as you can see, no one else can, is Halestorm. This is the first time I met Lizzie Hale.
Yep. So Jazz is pointing at a guitar on the wall in the background, mounted on a wall with a picture of her and Lizzie from Halestorm on the neck.
Yeah, so like Halestorm is, so like Guns N' Roses is my overall favorite band, but Halestorm is my favorite band day to day.
Yeah, okay.
So like Guns N' Roses did a lot for me when I was a very angsty teenager. But Halestorm does more for me on like a day to day personal basis.
Yeah, they're the ones you would reach to put on kind of on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, I don't know what it is. I think it's mainly because I've never really had a good relationship with my mum growing up.
Okay.
And I think I'm very much drawn and attracted to like strong female role models.
Yeah, okay.
And there was just something about Lizzie Hale in particular, who has this like visually feminine energy, but also her vocals are so gravelly and grainy and like that perfect balance of like feminine grit.
Yeah.
Which, bear in mind, as I said before, like I grew up on dad rock. I was into the Runaways before that as well. But I don't know, they didn't hit that like nerve. You know, they were cool, but they weren't Lizzie Hale cool.
Yeah.
And
so when was the first time you kind of heard Halestorm, and what was it that grabbed you? Was it initially those vocals or?
No. So funnily enough, I was like going through a bit of an emo phase with one of my mates. We were just showing each other really sad songs. And she showed me the song Break In. So my first introduction to Halestorm was actually just like a piano and Lizzie's ballady voice.
I don't know the song, so that's more of like a piano ballad.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Right,
just like her voice, just like really soft and just a piano.
Right,
But then, so I used to, when I used to discover music, I would just let YouTube do its thing.
Yeah.
So the next song after that was the Halestorm song Freak Like Me.
Right, okay.
Which is like the total opposite.
Is that what would be classed as a kind of more traditional Halestorm song then?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Right, okay.
A lot more like gritty, anthemic, guitar solo, screamy stuff. Those two songs, those two like perfect contradictory songs, I was like, I need to find out more about this band.
Yeah, just kind of grabbed you immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And funnily enough, my first blog at university, I named Freak Magazine after that song.
Yeah.
And then because I wouldn't be where I currently am if it wasn't for that song and that blog that I started, I also got the word freak tattooed on me, which is an homage to that moment.
Like proper life-changing, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to a point where it's, something that's marked on you forever. You heard those tracks, you went on a deep dive, found out everything you needed to know about kind of Halestorm. When was the first chance after that you actually got the opportunity to kind of see them live? And was it everything that you'd kind of hoped it would be?
Yes. I think it was Brixton Academy.
Okay.
Maybe 2019, 18?
Yeah.
2018, I want to say maybe.
Okay.
And then I saw them again at Alexandra Palace on a triple bill with In This Moment and New Year's Day.
Right, okay.
Which was really cool.
I've still not been to a show there yet.
Really?
I think if I was in London, I probably would do.
Yeah.
But because I'm not in London, I'm not a big fan of traveling into London, like,
Yeah.
and the whole thing that comes with it.
The thing with Alexandra Palace, like, it's a lovely venue once you're inside, but it is such a ball ache to get to. It's horrible getting to and from.
There's quite a lot of places, especially like, so I'm in Bristol at the moment, and getting to London, as in like the centre of London, isn't so much of an issue. But depending on where the gig is, then from that point, it's like I went to a gig a couple of months back. It's probably last summer now, like at New Cross Inn.
Okay, yeah.
And getting to that part of the city from like Bristol, takes you as long to get from kind of central London to there than it takes to get from Bristol to central London.
Yeah, I say that traveling anywhere within London will take you an hour, even though it might take you 20 minutes to get into London from outside of it. It's an hour anywhere inside.
I'm trying to think the last big London show. So last summer, I went to the Corn Show at Gunnersbury.
Oh, nice.
Which was really good, to be fair. It was worth travelling to. And of course, that couldn't be any more convenient for being on the west of the country. I am actually back in a couple of weeks for the big kind of Not Loose show at Brixton.
Nice. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, Alexandra Palace. I would like to go to a show there at some point. It always kind of looks cool. Like, does it sound okay in there?
It sounds okay in there. The only other issue I would have with the venue itself is there is no seating. It's all standing.
Just pure standing, yeah.
I love a seat these days.
Oh yeah, big time, yeah. So is that the only 2 times you've seen them? Or?
No, so I saw them again. They did an evening with Hailstorm where they did a acoustic section first as their own openers, and then an electric section afterwards. That was at Shepherd's Bush Empire. That was with my dad.
Okay.
And then I saw them at Download again, and then I saw them headline Wembley Arena, and then I saw them open for Alter Bridge, and then I'll be seeing them again this year opening for Iron Maiden.
Oh, are they on the Maiden tour this year?
Yeah, they're doing 2 Maiden dates in the UK, I think. The stadium ones.
Oh, their stadium shows, you say?
Yeah, that'll be London Olympic Stadium.
Ah, right, okay.
And it'll be even cooler this time around because I work them now.
Yeah, perfect. Even better, yeah. So one thing I was going to come on to then, you've kind of like given me the segue into it. I was going to say, now with like your kind of past few years working in music press and in and around the industry, have you had the chance to kind of work with Hailstorm on a professional level yet?
Not yet. This year will be my first year working with them professionally.
Right, okay.
That photo on my wall was from 2 years ago now, I think. My ex-boss was part of a music video she was also in.
Right,
so
okay.
he invited me along because he knows how much I love her. And that was when I met her for the first time. And then I met her again at the Heavy Music Awards when it was at Wembley Arena. And she remembered me.
That's nice.
And I got another photo with her then. So those are the 2 times I met her. It was twice in 1 year. So next time I see her, it will be more professional. I've got my fangirling bits out of the way.
Yeah, you kind of got that out of the way now, yeah. Who would your dream guest on the pod be? I mean, I'm guessing potentially outside of Lizzie Hale and Axl Rose. Who would your dream guest on? Because I think they're givens at this point.
You know what? I would love to interview Satchel from Steel Panther.
Right, okay.
Because every interview I've seen with Steel Panther, they're very like switched on in terms of like their comedy acts and like the way they portray themselves. And I think it throws off a lot of interviewers. But I would also want to interview him because I know he's obsessed with Dokken.
Right, okay.
So again,
so just for people that didn't hear that, we're talking about Dokken, the band, Dokken, not docking, which is a totally different thing, which you need to be very careful when you Google it. But feel free to if you want to. I'm not going to stop you.
So I feel like considering there would be like a main basis and theme around the interview that I know he would already love, I think it would go much more smoothly than all of the other interviews I've seen of them.
Just Satchel talking about Dokken.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, obviously, we touched briefly on the fact that you're within the industry now. So I'm right in saying that you're currently working for Cosa Nostra
Yes,
PR?
I am.
Is that right? Do you want to briefly tell us like the sort of things that you do with Cosa Nostra within the industry and some of the artists that you kind of work with?
So I've been with Cosa Nostra a little over a month now. I was with the Noise Cartel for 2 years previously, doing exactly the same job, just with different bands. But my main responsibilities tends to be sorting out guest lists for tours, making sure that media and photographers are coming down and covering the shows for coverage. So every time you see a gig review, that's me that sorts that out. That's me that makes that happen.
Do you go to them and say, can you come and review this show? Or they kind of apply to you and you're the one that goes through and kind of allocates the accreditation? Or?
Both. It entirely depends. It varies from tour to tour depending on how many spaces we get given from the tour manager or the band or the label or whatever. Which is why I go to a lot of gigs.
But I imagine you get absolutely hammered as well by people.
Yeah, especially now that I'm working with like much bigger bands. But besides the gigs in the evenings, like day to day, if a band's got an album coming out or a single coming out, I'll be the one again trying to get online blogs and magazines to make sure they're sharing the news of the new single, that they're writing reviews on the album, that they're interviewing the bands, and just getting as much coverage for bands in press and media as I can.
And what sort of bands have you been working with recently, or what sort of kind of campaigns have you been working on?
So at the moment with Cosa Nostra, we have coming out Killswitch Engage is one of the bands I work with now. Alter Bridge, Hailstorm, Shinedown recently released some stuff. Cradle of Filth.
Huge acts.
Slipknot at the end of last year. Spirit Box recently did.
Nice.
Motionless and White was a gig I was at the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Opeth, where I was the other night as well, last night. Last night? Oh my God, that was something last night.
Yeah, I think they played Bristol the night before, and I just, again, totally missed it because I'm just not very good at that sort of thing anymore, but it's the sort of thing I would have gone to as well. It was in a venue that they've recently done up as well, so it used to be called the Colston Hall, but it's had a big refurb and they've dropped the reference to Colston. A lot of people might have seen this in the past year. A few years ago, there was a huge movement in Bristol and they kind of looked to scrub Colston's statues and names from the city because of these links to slavery back in the day. Very positive move, which I very much support. So the venue has reopened after hundreds of millions of pounds worth of money being put into it. It's now called the Beacon. It looks amazing from the pictures that I've seen there. And they do seem to be putting on a few more heavier shows now, which is good because Bristol's kind of always bit weird for capacity. We don't have an arena. It's like the biggest kind of venue that we have, apart from maybe doing outdoor venues up on the Downs, like Massive Attack did one last summer and stuff, is basically the Academy, or the Beacon is slightly bigger because for an Academy, it's quite a small Academy venue, compared to like Manchester or something like that. So it's quite cool that heavier bands are playing there. So the Cannibal Corpse tour that came through last year, there was that ridiculous lineup with Cannibal Corpse and was it Municipal Waste? But I think that played the Beacon, and the only times I've been there in the past pre it being the Beacon, I think was to see like Joanna Newsom or something.
I don't even know who that is.
She's basically the total opposite to Cannibal Corpse that you can imagine. She just plays a harp and sings. It's kind of very folky.
Oh, it sounds nice though.
But, it was lovely. It was amazing. But total opposite end of the scale. So it's cool that they're embracing heavier bands a bit more. So hopefully at some point I'll get there.
Fingers crossed for you.
We'll dive into the section of the pod now, which is arguably the most important, where we get to talk about your chippy order. So let's dive into some.
I'm so glad I ate dinner before this, because this is about to make me very hungry again.
Honestly, my wife just popped out and I was saying to her before, I forgot how much, especially editing it, makes me hungry. I think the chats is one thing, but then because I've had, over the past 3 nights, I've had 2 recordings, then yourself tonight, so that's 3 recordings in 4 nights, plus editing those recordings in between. It's just kind of, my brain's just screaming chippy tea at me, and I'm trying to be good. But I think next week I'll have to crumble. We always start off with finding out what chippy is it that you're taking me to.
I am taking you to originally named Hector's Fish and Chips in Jersey, which is now named Eddie's Fish and Chips.
So it was called Hector's, now called Eddie's?
Yes, but it's in the same place, run by the same people, just had a refurb.
I mean, my knowledge of Jersey is very limited. So is there just kind of one main town on there, is there? Or?
Well, it's divided into 12 parishes.
Oh, okay, I'm into this.
So Hector's/Eddie's is situated across the town hall in St. Helier, which is the capital parish of Jersey.
The kind of main sort of town. Yeah, I think that's the one.
The London of Jersey.
The London of Jersey, the bustling centre of activity.
Yeah.
Is it a bit of a long-standing institution then? Has it been?
Yeah, it was always Hector's when I was growing up, and like for as long as I lived there. And it's kind of like, it kind of makes the corner on the edge of town. So most of the like secondary and sixth form colleges are all based around roughly the same area.
Yeah.
So when you finish school at 3:30, everyone would walk through that like little side road, that side street, and most of the time just go get fish and chips after school.
Hector was raking it in.
It was, yeah.
So yeah, all them kids coming in. The change in name, is that come with a change in ownership, do you know? Or
I have no idea. It happened after I left, so I'm very much out of the loop now. Just every time I go home, something's changed, something's different. I'm like, oh, I don't remember that being there.
yeah, it's always the way, isn't it, when you kind of move away from somewhere?
I think it's the same ownership. I don't know why they've changed it though.
Yeah, maybe it's his son or something.
Maybe.
Could be, couldn't it?
They could have named it Hector and Eddie's.
Oh, they could have done. We'll have to look into the story of that. I'll have a look and see if I can find anything about it. Keep my chippy lore up to date. Obviously, you're going to get chips. What sort of size portion of chips are you going to get?
Ooh, I'm usually a medium kind of gal.
Yeah, medium if on offer.
Mm-hmm.
From your memory, were the kind of the portions at Hector's, Eddie's, were they generous?
They were very generous. Yeah. They were generous, which I don't know how they managed it with all those kids coming through hungry after school.
Good thing about potatoes is they're relatively cheap, I guess.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Probably not so much anymore, but I guess
definitely not in Jersey. It'd be 10 times as much as it is over here.
I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, jerseys with potatoes. I'd imagine. I thought you'd just be tripping over them constantly. It's one thing they were famous for. No, the Jersey Royals not come from Jersey.
They do. Yeah, no, they do. This is on a complete tangent and probably shouldn't be talking about this publicly, but me and my dad, when I was a kid, we used to live across from a field that would grow potatoes.
You borrowed some, did you?
We have this thing where every year we would go spudding.
Yeah, like scrumping.
We would just leave under the cover of darkness, dressed in black clothes, and just hop over the wall into the field and just take some Jersey Royals for ourselves for home.
There's nothing wrong with that. I bet they tasted good as well. The classic secret ingredient of crime. Yeah,
exactly.
What's your kind of main accompaniment to the chips? What do you have with your chips?
I like a good old scampi and chips.
Scampi,
so
okay.
If that's on offer, scampi and chips.
Oh, of course it is. You can have whatever you want. It's your kind of dream chippy order. It's weird because it's something you would expect to see at nearly all chippies, but then the more you think about it, you don't see it as much. It's a classic pub grub, isn't it? Scampi and chips, like in a basket or something. But then thinking about it, I mean, I'm not a big fan of scampi because I'm not a huge fan of like kind of prawns and stuff. So I wouldn't really look for it, but you don't hear people ordering it in a chip shop much. So if they do, I don't look for it, and it's very rare I hear someone being like, oh, could I have a scampi and
Which
chips?
doesn't make sense because it's the perfect fish and chips order. Because if you think about it, right, chips, they're really easy to eat if you're just holding it in one hand and you're standing. You can just, fork in one hand, chips in the other. But if you've got a full fish on top of those chips, but only one free hand, you can't. Whereas if it's scampi, they're like bite size.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, no.
Very passionate about this.
Yeah, no, it's a great argument. I'm all for pushing the boundaries of what's possible from a chip shop. It's it's a really good argument. I think I was chatting to Chris from the Core the other day, another noise podcast. It was a similar sort of vein. He was talking about fish bites, which I guess is the same sort of thing, just kind of smaller chunks of cod, and that would suit that situation, the one hand free situation perfectly. Are you a salt and vinegar girl?
Salt, yes. Yep. Vinegar depends on what my mood is.
Right, okay.
Depends on how the chips come as well. I feel like there's some chips that should just be enjoyed as they are because they've got that perfect like crunch and fluffiness.
Yeah.
Whereas if the chips are a little bit too hard, then I would douse them in vinegar just to make them a little bit softer.
One of my favourite things in that chip. So if you get like a cone of chips, and obviously if you put vinegar on a cone of chips and it all kind of like filters its way through to the bottom, one of my favourite things is the kind of where you get like the smaller crispy chips that have also made their way through to the bottom, have been sat soaking in the vinegar for like the 10 minutes it takes you to eat them. And then when you get to the bottom, they've kind of gone really soft.
There's nothing worse than a hard chip.
Overcooked and crispy or undercooked so it's like got bite.
So that it's got like bite to it. Like I would rather have a soggy chip than a hard chip.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I understand.
There's a fine line between crunch and hard.
Yeah, no, yeah, there is. I agree. And I think that's what I was trying to get to. Yeah. So like crunch as in like, they're slightly overcooked. So they've got a bit of they're crispy. That's fine. But undercooked. So they've kind of got bite to them, as in, because they're not quite, they haven't gone soft to then go hard again.
Yes.
That's the bad ones. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And sometimes even vinegar doesn't save that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a chippy you have to question visiting again. Do you get any moisture with your fish and chips? Any kind of sauces, curry, gravy?
Well, if I'm getting scampi and chips, then I'll have to have it, if they do it, with a tartar sauce.
Yep, okay, yep.
There's no other... You know what? I've never... It's going to piss a lot of people off. I've never tried gravy with a fish and chip order.
I mean, you say piss a lot of people off. I mean, there's definitely people that shout up on here. I like gravy on chips, but if I'm having fish, I kind of keep that very free of sauce.
Yeah.
So, and I think if you're just using chips, there's a lot of free reign as to what you can have on them.
But even with just chips, I haven't had curry on my chips before.
No.
And I feel like most people would say they would have like curry and chips, or like curry chips and a sausage. I've never tried curry with my chips.
No. Are you open to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think if there was nothing else on offer, if I didn't have a choice, then I would try it. But I've got a choice.
Because chip shop curry is obviously very different to like, a curry that you get from like an Indian restaurant or something like that. Obviously, it's much more aligned to... So I always try and describe for people that haven't necessarily had it, traditional chip shop chippy curry is almost, it's quite katsu-y.
Yes, it is.
If you've ever had like kind of katsu fries or anything from like a kind of Asian place, then you're not too far off, really.
I feel like I need to try that now, but just like shop bought katsu and chips. Just out.
Yeah, it'll do the job.
As a little snack after work.
The South, and especially London, has quite a fierce kind of reputation for not being amazing for getting wet stuff on chips. So I'm not sure what sort of options you have in the way of curry. Like, and obviously you've got pie mash and liquor. I don't know if they serve liquor in chip shops, or whether that's refined to the pie mash.
I've never heard of that.
Have you not?
No, I haven't.
Right, you should look it up.
Like,
so
there's in like, how hard we're talking?
No, right, yeah. So it's spelt the same. So it's almost like a kind of a sauce, like a gravy. So obviously up north we'll have like pie mash and gravy, or like pie peas and gravy, very northern thing. In London, it's kind of like, so they have like pie mash shops that have been around for years and years and years, and you get pie mash, and the thing they pour it's called liquor. So it's like a sauce, but it's like a herby sauce.
Okay.
So it's like a kind of like a gravy, but it's much more like kind of like almost like white see-through-y sort of, and it's more kind of like herby sort of thing that they kind of put on their pie mash. But it's a proper Cockney up there with like the kind of cockles and whelks sort of thing.
Okay. I'm going to keep an eye out for that now.
I'm sure some people can maybe comment on the episode and let me know. I apologise, I'm no expert, but I think there's certain areas of London that you would go to kind of get pie mash. Yeah, that's something else you can check out. Have you ever ordered anything to eat while you've been waiting at the chippy?
No, I haven't. I was listening to one of your other episodes earlier. I didn't know I could do that.
Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. Chippies are a lawless place.
Yeah, like, I don't know why, it just didn't make sense to me at the time. Like, every time I've ordered, that I could order something whilst I wait, because I was like, but then surely it would take them still time to make that whilst I wait for the other thing.
Has to be ready. That's the key, because otherwise it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine scampi's not the sort of thing that they just have sat in the, in the glass cabinet of dreams at the front of a chippy, kind of keeping warm.
Yeah.
So I imagine you'd always have to shout it up fresh. So while you're waiting 5-10 minutes, you just have a quick look in the counter and see what's in there. It's normally pies or little sausages, maybe a fish cake or something.
No, I haven't usually, but I definitely will now that I know that's the thing. As long as I don't ruin my scampi, then it'll be good.
That's the key. You've got to get just the right, so just a little thing, just like a little teaser, a little amuse-bouche.
Exactly.
So you haven't done it, but you plan to.
Oh, I do now, yeah.
It's nice to know we're influencing people and changing minds and changing lives. Any kind of like local specialties that they do in the chippies on Jersey that you've not really seen since you've been over in England?
So there's I don't know what it's made of, but there is a very specific Jersey delicacy called Jersey Wonders.
Jersey Wallanders?
Wonders.
Okay.
I'm actually usually going to triple check what it's made of. It's definitely, if you're gluten intolerant, they're not for you.
Right, okay.
It's literally just like flour, sugar, Jersey butter, and egg. That's it. But I think they're called Jersey Wonders because they're just like this really random shape. And deep fried as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it sounds almost like a batter in itself.
Yeah.
Like the ingredients are just almost like batter ingredients, but with butter as well, you say?
And Jersey butter too, which is
Oh my
another.
God, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like butter, salt, and bread are like they're probably arguably the three best foodstuffs on the planet. Obviously chips were here for a reason, but those things like when you go to like a nice restaurant, they always have like a really nice like focaccia bread to start, and it comes with like a really kind of like salted butter.
Yes.
I generally don't think there's much better than that. So this essentially just sounds like that, but fried.
Yeah, basically. Like that
Oh
is
my
all it
God.
is. I've just triple checked what it is as well, because I've always known that we do them, but I've never actually looked into what they are.
I'm
But that's
100% looking
literally
those up
it. It's
afterwards.
just deep fried those ingredients. And obviously
I mean,
in a fish and chip shops where they batter and deep fried things, they also
yeah.
sell those everywhere.
Oh
Very
my
bad
God,
for
that
your
sounds
heart,
amazing.
but very tasty.
Yeah, I mean, everything in moderation, isn't it? I mean, I've always kind of been up for visiting the Channel Islands at some point just because I like to go to new places. And I think I've just been given a reason to. But the thing is, I'll probably be the only one I ever eat in my life. So I'm not going to, hopefully I don't become addicted because all that money that you having to spend to fly over and accommodate for shows, I'd be spending just to get myself another Jersey Wonder.
I mean, I'm sure you can like figure out how to make them yourself. I mean, they won't be the same, but you know.
Yeah, like making anything yourself's not the same, is it?
No.
Like it's always nicer when someone else makes it, especially a pro. If I was going to get my first one, I'd want to try it from a specialist.
Well, now you know. If you ever make it to Jersey, look out for Jersey Wonders.
Pop. You've had a can of pop?
If it's the summer, I've never been a really big like fizzy drink pop kind of gal.
Okay.
But the recent years in the summer, if it's really hot, a nice can, and it's a can, not a bottle, nice
100%,
can
always
of
can.
full fat Coke just hits the spot.
Nice and cold.
Yes, exactly.
It's come up on the pod a few times how definitely up there with like a cure for hangovers. Can I get, but then there's something about like a draft Coke, specifically almost like from McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like a really cold draft Coke from McDonald's is like, it goes a long way to kind of like
set you back.
Kicking a hangover. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So there we are. That's the end of your chippy order. Enlightening. It's the first one we've had from not outside of mainland England, but, from a kind of
holiday destination.
A holiday destination or an island group associated with England. So yeah, it'll be another interesting one to add to the map. Again, for those that aren't aware, there is a Google map. I think there's links to it on our Instagram where all our guests and the chippies that they've recommended are on there. So you can
putting Jersey back on the map.
Back on the map. Yeah, that on there. And I'll be making sure to put a note on there to tell people to try the wonders. We'll move into our last section now, which gives you the opportunity to tell us about some stuff that you've got coming in the future. And this section is called So this is the plug it section. I guess we can start by talking about maybe some upcoming episodes.
So currently out, I have one with Kid Bookie.
Okay.
He's chatting about Slipknot.
Nice.
I had a recent one with Kia from Conquer Divide, who's a band I love and been wanting to talk to for ages. We talked loads about Paramore.
Nice.
Recently chatted with Larry from the band Malavora about Alter Bridge.
Okay.
That's what I can remember off the top of my head, podcast-wise. Do you want to know what Cosa Nostra has coming out?
Yeah, let me know. Hit me up.
We have an album called Here Be Dragons by Avantasia.
Okay.
We have the new Spirit Box coming on the 7th of March.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've got that pre-ordered.
Oh, it's so good. We have Alter Bridge's One Day Remains 20th Anniversary Edition coming out the same day as well.
Okay.
So this is all for March. We also have Cradle of Filth. We have Spirit World, their new album Heldorado. And
nice. Okay.
Arch Enemy, Blood Dynasty. That's all for March.
Busy period.
Oh, yeah.
You may or may not be able to say. I know he's come out and talked about it on a podcast recently. Does the new Cradle of Filth album feature the Ed Sheeran collab? Or is that a totally separate thing?
That's a totally separate thing.
Yeah. I know they've said that it's probably going to see the light of day at some point. I know Danny's hinted that it's kind of due soon. So I wasn't sure if it was on the album. I think he did hint it'd probably be like a bit of a one-off thing, but it is something I think a lot of people, me included, are quite intrigued to see how that sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. On the tour front, we've also got a very busy March.
Hit us up.
I'm seeing Paleface Swiss on Sunday.
Yes.
We've got Kill the Lights supporting Raging Speedhorn.
Okay.
We've got Those Damn Crows doing a bunch of underplay shows. We've got Zealanada. We've got
Nice.
Avantasia. We've got Bacassa supporting Mother Vulture. We have Behemoth with Satyricon and Rotting Christ.
Oh yeah, that's that big show, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's a very packed March that we have.
Sounds tiring.
It's tiring for someone who's such an introvert. I don't know how I managed to do this.
Yeah, maybe you're not as introverted as you think you are.
I'm fine when I'm out, but like I need a lot of recovery time between that.
It's like tiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping up appearances is tiring.
Basically.
Jazz, I think we've covered everything that we need to cover today. Thank you so much for giving up your Thursday evening to chat to me.
That's all right. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to go and try Hector's Eddies again next time I go back home in end of March.
And report back if they've got the wonders.
Absolutely. I'm going to do that. I'm getting a full day session tattoo then as well, which I'm right across the road from Hector's. So I'm going to get me a chippy after my tattoo day session.
That's absolutely. But yeah, I'm a big fan of a chippy tea after a big tattoo session. So yeah, that's the absolute perfect recovery food. Hopefully it'll be warm enough for you to enjoy one of those full fat Cokes as well.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Jazz, take care of yourself, and I'm sure I'll catch up with you at some point.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
That was Jazz from I'm Your Biggest Fan. She took us to Eddie's, previously Hector's, in St Helier on the sunny Isle of Jersey. She ordered a medium chips with scampi. She'll definitely have salt, but the addition of vinegar is very mood dependent. She'll have some tartar sauce on the side, a can of full fat Coke, and obviously she's getting one of those Jersey wonders. As always, I want to see your chippy teas too, so don't forget to tag us in any pics or let us know your favourite local chippy on socials using @RiffNChips. Thanks to Rob Collier for providing the dive bomb, Edgar Gibbs for the screams, and Ryan Westwood for the artwork. See you in a week's time for our next episode.